Hi, welcome to A Gut Feeling. My name is Janine and this is my channel where I talk all about gut health, specifically my personal experience with dealing with severe ulcerative colitis. Now, I know it's been quite a while since I've posted and I really apologize about this. This is an update video as to where I've been, what's been up, why I've not been posting, how has my health been, and that type of thing. Before we jump into it, I do want to say I'm not a doctor, I'm not a dietitian. Any advice or anything that I share is just my personal experience. Make sure you do your own research. I think it's been probably over a year now, maybe, since I have published a video, and I apologize for just letting you all sit. This is my second channel. I do have another main channel that I post to weekly that's more of a lifestyle channel. That is linked below. Sometimes I share some of my health experiences over there. But I give that one first priority, and when life got really busy in 2020, I just left this one sit. And I also felt like I had shared a lot of the things I'd learned, and I was beginning to run out of things to say, so like posting every other week was becoming pretty busy, especially as a busy mom, running another YouTube channel, and so that was kind of one of the reasons I let it sit. But let's just backtrack and see what all's been going on in my life. First off, if this is the only channel you watch, not my other one, you probably noticed that I have gained some weight. Not that I wanted to. However, my weight has definitely been something I've struggled with all my life to just manage it. I could very quickly gain, and it was very hard to lose. It was something I always tried to keep tabs on, but I was one of those people that had a harder time losing weight. And then when I got ulcerative colitis, it really ramped up things, like as far as just did a number on my body with all the flares. As you all know, when you have an ulcerative colitis flare, your body lacks in nutrients and you tend to lose weight quickly. And while I often didn't lose weight as much as other people seem to in bad flares, I would drop possibly 20 pounds-ish, maybe even 30 sometimes if my flare was really long, which most of my flares are. But then as I would get back out of flares, it just, my body would start putting on weight again, obviously recuperating and catching up. And it just seemed that I would go from starvation mode to hanging on to fat. And I would usually gain everything back and then some. And it just seemed like each time it was harder and harder. And it was sort of a head thing as well, because after being so many months in deprivation and just dreaming of food and suddenly you could eat again, I don't think I really gorged myself, but it was just sort of this constant battle with food. Like, I can eat now, and it would often take quite a few months to sort of get back into a balance. So that's something I'm currently struggling with and hoping that I can get on top of. However, if you're not aware, I am actually expecting. I am just shy of 39 weeks pregnant, so any day now we are expecting a little girl. It's our second child, so I thought, you know what, now would be a good time to post some more videos, give you guys some updates, and even share like what my experience has been dealing with ulcerative colitis and pregnancy. And then also postpartum, once the baby arrives, Lord willing, just share some what's going on. There's a good possibility I could flare again. Hopefully not. So I will try to post a little bit more updates on this channel, but it won't be nearly as frequent as before because I am quite busy, but I'll try not to let it go for as long as I did before. I'm gonna do my best to remember everything that has happened since one of my last videos. So I believe it was the end of 2019 that I started this channel. I was desperate for answers. So I was diagnosed with severe ulcerative colitis after my son was born. It was probably about 6-7 months after, in 2017. And that started the journey of a really tough journey trying to figure out what to do. I started with medications, working with my doctor. Some of them seemed to work, but it just seemed like every couple months I was back in a flare. And my flares were rarely ever the type that would only come for a few weeks. Most times they would last for months. And then I'd finally be able to get out of them with medication or whatever, and I'd be out of them for a few months, maybe half a year if I was lucky, and then boom, right back into another one. And they just, each flare kept getting worse and worse and worse, as they tend to do. And so the end of 2019, I believe it was, I was getting desperate for answers. It was one of the worst flares I'd had, and when I went to my doctor, she was proposing all kinds of different medications again, and I had already been trying some natural things. But kind of the straw that broke the camel's back was when she was basically telling me, you really need to get surgery and this is what I suggest. And just the idea of living with possibly a pouch, them removing my colon, was something that I just could hardly bear the thought of. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to try everything I can on my own and just skip medications completely, because that's really what I wanted to do. And a lot of the medications she had been telling me that she wanted to experiment with on me, I most likely couldn't get pregnant on, and we really wanted some more children if at all possible. So I walked out of that office in 2019, and I have not been back to her since, and this is currently end of April of 2022. Now the journey definitely wasn't easy, but that's when I started up my YouTube channel to just kind of share my experience with you all and sort of document it for myself as well. And most of the information the things that I have been doing and trying, I have on this channel, so go check it out. I haven't changed a whole lot, but I will update you since that time. So when I finally got out of that last flare, and I praise the Lord for it, I believe it was His leading and His healing hand in my life that also helped me and showed me some things to do. A big factor is things like the SCD diet, the GAPS diet. They have really helped me, and especially in flares. So I've found that when I would really focus on the strict part of those diets when I was in a severe flare, that kind of helped settle things down, and that was usually when I could sort of start turning things around, slowly but surely. These diets were very hard to stick to for myself. I would stick to them for a bit and then end up cheating. It was very, very difficult. Anyone that can stick to them for long periods of time, I just am super impressed by, because it was always a struggle of mine, but it is a foundational diet that I use. And along with colostrum, over that time I discovered colostrum. It was specifically a certain brand, which I've talked on this channel. You can go check it out. And I have been on it for the past 2.5 years, and it has helped me so much in many different ways. And it's something that when I feel a flare coming or I feel symptoms and I realize I haven't taken it for a while, I will quickly take a whole bunch of it with like yogurt, probiotic foods, and it often just immediately sort of, I can feel it kind of calming my gut. Usually within a few days I can kind of like get back on track again, or at least see my symptoms settle down. So that has been a key for me personally. I know it doesn't work for everyone, but there have been lots of studies as well on the effectiveness of colostrum with like IBD patients, and there's even doctors that prescribe it in a medical term form. But you can go check out my other videos on that. So what's been going on? Once I got out of my flare, when I started this YouTube channel, I had one of the best years I have ever had. And believe it or not, that was the year of 2020, where I basically had an entire year with no flare. I just had like a small flare in there, some minor symptoms, but I was able to control it and manage it quite well. And I was just unbelievable. I'm like, wow, this is the longest time that I have had a normal life without being overcome with anxiety and pain and these flares. Trying to live life, you know how it is when you're constantly searching for a bathroom and bleeding a lot and you can't sleep very well at night because you're often running to the bathroom, that type of thing. Finally, my life felt normal. I felt like I was learning a little bit more about my body. Well, 2020 was a crazy year for sure, as we all know, but it was crazy on different parts on our side as well. So as I shared in another video, the beginning of 2020, before everything went completely crazy, we had taken a vacation to the Turks and Caicos Islands. I had been coming out of my flare. I did really well when I was there. It was just an incredible trip. And then that year, it was just really, really busy. We decided to jump into house renovations here. We live in an old farmhouse. If you want to see those videos, they're on my other channel, but we did so much work to our place here. And I was really stressed out over that time. I was doing way too much work. I should have been trying to manage my stress levels, but I was like full gear into this renovation. Many other things happened over that year besides the pandemic and COVID. My mom, towards the end of the year, she was developing a lump in her kidney, and we were really worried it was cancer. And she was very, very sick for quite a while, and there was lots of doctor's appointments and trying to figure out what was going on. So that stretched out for quite a few months, and she eventually needed surgery. Thankfully, it was not cancer. God is so good. It was just a non-cancerous lump that was growing that needed to be removed. But it was quite a procedure, especially with COVID going on. And so I was kind of in charge a lot of the time of taking her to hospitals, and since only one person could be with her at the hospital, thankfully they did allow one person at a time. My dad and I could take turns going in and being with her. So we had house renovations going on, and we were right in the middle of our house being completely torn apart. I was running in to be with my mom different times and trying to take care of her. And then also over this time, my husband's father was diagnosed with cancer as well. It was like a lymphomia or lymphobic cancer. It was said that it was very treatable. But then my husband also started going out west to, help with his dad and help some things out there while he was going through cancer treatments and that type of thing and weak. So we had a parent on each side that was not doing well. Plus we had house renovations. So that was part of the reason this channel just got dropped. Life was just hectic and I was trying to run my other YouTube channel. So there was so much stress. And this is something that is key that I have learned, that stress is definitely one of the biggest triggers to an ulcerative colitis flare. And I was just asking for it, but some of these factors we really can't control. Stress factors, I could have probably controlled how much work I was putting into the house, but some of these other circumstances in life, when we have ill parents or anything down that line, that really can't be helped. And often as it is, I begin to notice, and I've heard this with other people, that it often seems when when we're in stress, our bodies cope with it, but when we're starting to come out of stress is when the flare hits. And I can't quite remember. I need to dig into that a little bit more. There's something that your body just kind of relaxes and lets down its guard or something, and then as it's trying to rejuvenate and reheal, somehow it brings in the flare. I don't quite understand it all. I need to dig into that more before I make a video on it, but I have noticed it in my life and my brother's life as well. My brother has Crohn's. He often talks about it. You go through a stressful time and then it's usually right after the stress leaves, a few weeks later you flare. And that's kind of what happened in my situation. So the house renovations were pretty much complete by the end of 2020. My mom was out of the hospital. Everything seemed to be going well on her part. She would be okay. The stress was starting to leave. But however, my husband's father ended up getting COVID. And first off, we thought everything was still going to be okay. We weren't too worried about it. But suddenly things started going downhill quickly. And before we knew it, it was the beginning of 2021, we began to realize that this is getting really serious. And sadly, he ended up passing away the beginning of 2021, I think it was in February. And so it was right around that time in January that I jumped into my next flare, and it was a really, really bad flare. I truly believe it was all the stress from the year of 2020. I'd also not been doing completely well in my diet, and just a whole multitude of factors. So that was actually my first major flare since I quit making these videos, and it's the only one I've had, and that was my last one. So it was definitely a difficult time. My husband's father passed away. I really wanted to be with them. They lived out in Oregon, and it was one of those things, and I know some people might think I'm crazy, but it was one of those things where I just had extreme anxiety to fly on an airplane and to travel, and all the stress of flying, that I was preferring to drive. My husband had flown out earlier to be with his dad. We didn't think he was going to pass away, but then the day he got there, or the next day, he did pass away. So we were really happy that my husband was able to make it out with my son. He took my son along as well. And we had decided if something like that would happen, I would just drive. And it's a long way from where I live. It's like a 30-hour drive or something like that. But it looked a lot more doable to me. I had driven it before, and we had a camper. And so I could just drive out at my pace and as my strength allowed. And I had my own bathroom behind the truck that I could stop anywhere at any time whenever I needed it, which was quite a bit at that time. So that camper that we have has been a lifesaver for me in situations like this. And I did share that story on my other YouTube channel, so the people that are over there kind of had known what was going on. It was definitely really difficult. Now obviously this is about ulcerative colitis, not about all the events happening, but I did want to share a little bit what all's been going on in our life, why we've been absent, and also some of my health issues and why I think I flared. And also I had also gotten COVID. I wasn't very sick, but I lost my taste and smell. And after that, for, I don't know, it's probably 8-9 months, I had that terrible taste in my mouth over certain foods. I forget what it's called, but I've heard it happens to other people as well. And for months, there was specific foods that really tasted rotten to me. I can't describe the taste. It was an awful taste, a terrible taste, and it smelled awful as well. It sort of spoiled. This is really gross, but yeah, almost like, not like sewage, but manure or something just awful that you were eating. And the sad thing was, it was all the foods that I relied on to get me out of a flare. So my 24-hour yogurt that I make that's so soothing for the gut, I could hardly stomach it. Pretty much anything with proteins like chicken, eggs, different of the things that I would try to soft boil to eat to get me out of flares that had often helped before. So I was really in a pickle when I was in this flare, and I think it's one of the reasons I really struggled to get out was simply because I could hardly eat these foods. I could hardly stomach them, and so I did not stick very well to the diet, although I kept trying and trying. But it just felt like there's only so much you can do when food tastes so terrible, like it's spoiled. Like there's only so long you can just choke this stuff down. And I believe even things like broth and stuff, like almost anything with these proteins in it would have this terrible taste. So I really, really struggled through this flare, and I was becoming more and more desperate. I believe it started in January and it kept lasting for quite a few months. I believe it was like April that I started finally getting out of it. So from January to March, April. And I truly believe one of the big culprits was the fact that I couldn't eat this food in the diet that I really should have been on. So it was over that time I was working with my health doctor. I was still determined not to try meds because I knew what my other doctor had given me options for. I knew it was sort of this long road, and a lot of the side effects that come with medication, I was still determined to try to be natural. But my doctor that consulted me naturally, he was both a medical and a natural doctor, where he would try natural things first, very knowledgeable, but he would also be able to use drugs and that type of thing if really needed. So his advice to me was to actually get back on prednisone. He said sometimes your body just needs that extra kick, and then I'd try to wean off of it quickly and go my natural route. Now to me, this is my last option because prednisone really sets you back. It can in many ways and undo a lot of things, and it's just not healthy for you. But I was really getting desperate because nothing was working, and I just could not hardly stomach this food that I had been using before. So that's when I went on prednisone, and that definitely was something that helped start the crawl back out, and that combined with, you know, the different other techniques I was using, the ones that I could, help pull me out of that flare. And so when I finally got out, it just felt amazing. And so that has been the one major flare that I've had since I started this channel. And I haven't had any since that I can remember, maybe some minor symptoms. I still get symptoms now and then when I get careless. Maybe I'm falling behind on sleep. I notice that a good bit. If I'm low on sleep, if I eat foods I should not be eating, especially large amounts of it. And I'm not like super strict on my SCD diet. I just try to stay away. I've noticed things like gluten, sugar. I'm pretty okay with dairy for the most part, but I don't really drink a lot. It's mostly fermented dairy and like yogurts, cheeses. Usually I'm fine on that. Things like peanuts I stay away from. I'm trying to think what other trigger foods are, but I begin to kind of understand and realize that there's certain foods that definitely trigger me more. And if I eat those too much, like I do allow myself to cheat, but if I do eat those, I can usually tell a difference pretty quickly within a few days, especially if I'm staying off course for a while. So what I really try to do, I don't stick to like a pure GAPS or SCD diet, but like a keto style diet with lots of meats and proteins, very low carb is usually what I do best on. And then also, as I've spoken of many times on this channel, is really focus on probiotic foods. And when I do that and I get in my yogurts and my colostrum and my smoothies, even like some sauerkrauts and that type of thing, I'm doing way, way better. But when I slack off on that, which is so easy to do when you start feeling well, you kind of forget. And then you realize I went however many weeks without taking my supplements. It's terrible. But sometimes I'll go for a week and I forgot to take my colostrum or forgot to eat my probiotic foods, and you can start sort of telling that your gut's getting a little off balance. So yeah, it's definitely a journey I'm still on. It's still something I'm learning, and I do want to keep you guys updated. Maybe I'll do a little bit more just my personal journey, things I'm finding. But I feel like the videos on this channel have kind of laid a foundation to what I try. One of the key things that has helped me so much is the yogurt. And sometimes I still don't do the 24-hour if you have to make it. I just use like a Greek yogurt, like a full fat Greek yogurt that's not sweetened. And I'll make a smoothie with maybe some blueberries and a lot of colostrum, and that usually helps. Like sometimes if I start feeling my stomach, my gut become raw, maybe I have more urgency and not quite as formed bowel movements, and I start realizing that, uh-oh, I think I feel symptoms of a flare coming, I will just immediately go towards yogurt, a soothing yogurt. It's really good if you can do the 24-hour yogurt, and colostrum. I'm at the point where I take about a tablespoon, but the colostrum is really good at helping rebuild your gut lining, give you lots of the nutrients you need, and it's just chock full of so many things. And it's usually, as soon as I take it, I can just feel it sort of soothe my stomach. And if I consistently do it however many days in a row and I'm careful in my diet, it seems I just can almost pull back out of it. And that's been my staple for the past, ever since I started using it. And I believe that is one of the reasons I have been able to go so long between flares. Before I jumped into all this and kind of got a knowledge about the gut microbiome and how probiotics are so important, and before I jumped into like colostrum and all its benefits, I was probably going into a flare, I don't know, it just seemed every 3 to 6 months, if not sooner, sometimes a little bit longer. Anyway, so it's been like the end of 2019 that I started this channel. I was kind of sharing with you the things I was learning, and since that time I've basically just had one major flare, and so that's been a huge success. However, I also got pregnant last year, and this was something that I was very, very scared. We really wanted some more children, but I was just almost terrified. It was something I had to pray a lot about, just give in God's hands and just finally let go. And I believe God has protected me through pregnancy, and I thank Him for that. But honestly, I did get pregnant, and I have heard that some women get better, some get worse, and some stay the same. So I made sure that I was not in an active flare, but when I did get pregnant, I started to feel better as far as UC. I still got morning sickness and that type of thing. But as time went on, it just seemed my UC symptoms did improve, and I still had to manage them. I still could see, like before, if I was too bad on cheating on some foods, or if I forgot to take my colostrum for too long, that type of thing, or my probiotic foods, I would start getting symptoms, and then I would try to reverse them like I told you before with the things. And so I'm currently just shy of 39 weeks pregnant, and I just praise God that I have not had any flares, just a few signs here and there, and we've had a healthy pregnancy, and we can't wait to meet our little one. That is where I am currently today. I wanted to bring you up to speed, some of the things that have been going on in our lives, why this channel has suddenly just went silent. And yes, like I said before, I won't be posting a ton of videos on here, but I'll try to be a little bit more regular. Maybe I can try to squeeze one in every month. So if you want to know when I post, make sure to subscribe, hit the little bell notification so that YouTube alerts you. And I wish you the best with your journey, with whatever gut issues you have, whether it's ulcerative colitis, whether it's Crohn's, or any of the various gut diseases that people deal with. It's not easy, and I can sure testify to that. It's a very difficult journey, but I firmly believe that there's so many answers in the natural world. I still feel like I'm at the beginning of my journey. I'm still learning a lot, but as of now, I'm just thrilled that for the past however many years, I've been able to, for the most part, besides the prednisone that one time, be able to just manage my ulcerative colitis with natural ways, with food and diet and supplements, and things like trying to manage stress and get adequate amounts of sleep. That's just huge. I've noticed that I've just really been more in tune with that. If I get really behind on sleep, not so good with a newborn coming on, I can just tell it almost immediately in my gut within a few days. And so there's like a multitude of factors you need to consider, and just everything kind of ties together and helps with your overall health. So as far as this channel, I will try to keep you more updated on especially my personal progress and just things I've experienced, maybe some recipes I try and that type of thing. So I wish you the best. Thanks for being here. And if you want to be updated maybe when the baby arrives, because I'm more up to date on my other channel, I'll have it in the description. And I'll try to update you as well and give you some postpartum news and how I'm coping with it, especially once the baby's here for maybe a month or so. I'm kind of anxious about it, but trying to just rest and leave it to God. But my doctor, midwife, basically said that I could very likely expect a flare after the baby comes, maybe about 2 weeks after. A lot of women with autoimmune diseases and conditions like mine do flare. There's something about all the fluctuating hormones, all that type of thing that factor in. So I'm really hoping that I won't. I can see it's a high possibility. Your body goes through so much, then you're low on sleep. It's kind of a stressful time delivering a baby and all that. But we will see what happens, and I will try to keep you guys posted. Thanks for being here. We'll see you whenever I post another one.